Hello guys, once again. So today we are going to start our new topic, that is forensic photography. And I told you that in crime scene recording, this is the first major step which has to be taken by the investigating officer or by the forensic personnel. Now before starting, I would like to tell you photography is one of the method of recording of the crime scene, and it can be done by anybody who is authorized to do so. It can be done by an investigating officer, it can be done by a forensic expert, it can be done by a forensic photographer, or it can be done by anybody at the time when nobody is available. So even you can do photography as a layman. Let's say you are not a forensic expert, but you are having a good mobile camera and you have seen something happening, or you have visited a crime scene by chance accidentally. So you are also authorized in that case to photograph the crime scene, but you have to prove yourself as a witness then in the courtroom. However, the professional crime scene photography happens with the help of the forensic photographer only. So let's start with the forensic photography. Almost in every case, photography serves as an evidence of its value as a powerful weapon. Now, suppose a case that you have not done the photography in. How you will prove to the court that in what condition the evidences were lying at the scene of crime? You cannot. So what will happen? You have to give explanation for each and everything, and not only you, your lawyer and the other participant, other experts have to give the explanation for each and everything, and nobody is going to believe in that. So photography is a permanent record of the crime scene, of the evidences, of even of the situation, the environment which was there at the time of the investigation of that particular crime. So it is very much necessary to photograph the crime scene and the evidences at each and every step. I told you earlier as well, it is one of the best method of recording the evidence. Let's say there is a blood and it is looking red right now, and if you have not photographed, do you think after 3 days it will be same or of same color? Right? No, it will not be of same color. So it will change to brown, then dark brown, then it is impossible even to prove within the photograph that it was blood. So it should be done immediately as the first approach to the crime scene. So there are two things. One thing, if there is a chance of survival of any life, let's say the victim is surviving for life, the victim is injured, the victim is harmed on the crime scene. So the very first work of the investigating officer or the forensic expert is to provide the medical assistance to that victim. And the second work is to photograph the crime scene, photograph or videograph. When I say photograph, it also includes the videograph, which we will clear in the later stages in upcoming videos, but photography is must. The next thing is, now look at this phrase here, even signed confessions do not necessarily prove guilt. I may say something that I have committed this crime or I have killed this person, but do you really going to rely on that confession without any evidence? And if there is a CCTV footage, if there is a photograph which proves it, so my confession can be taken into consideration. So this is one scenario. Other scenario is somebody is saying that I was not present at the crime scene, and there is a CCTV footage and there is a photograph of the fingerprint which shows his fingerprint on the crime scene. He cannot take any alibi of that instance or that statement, and he has to confess that yes, he was present at the crime scene at that time. Now, this is the major part of the crime scene photography. What are the significances of photography in forensic science? Now, we have been talking a lot about photography since our very first session on crime scene. Photography is a great tool for the forensic expert. If you do not know photography and you want to be a forensic expert, you can't be. Believe me, you can't be. You need to know all the basics of photography. So I always advise my student to go for extra credit course in photography by any of the good organization for a 3-month certificate or 6-month certificate to become a good forensic photographer, because the career demand is very much growing in forensic photography, and you may need several forensic photographers within the same forensic lab because of the increasing rate of crime. So let us move ahead to understand the significance of the photography in forensic science. So the first basic significance here is it is one of the best method of recording and preservation of the crime scene. You cannot record, you cannot preserve the crime scene in any other way better than the photography. Again I am telling you, if we are saying photography, videography is included. If you want to do videography, well and good. If you do not want to do, it's okay, but photography is must. Okay, because you may misplace evidence while the collection or of the evidences. So what you need to do, you need to properly photograph the crime scene in its intact form first. Okay, so it is one of the best method of recording. If somebody asks you what is the best method of recording the crime scene, so photography is one of the best method. The other methods are sketching and notes, which we will discuss in the next videos. Number second is, it is one of the best method of presentation of crime scene in the courtroom. You cannot take a dead body in the courtroom, can you? Everybody will laugh at you. You cannot take even, but what you can do, you can take the photographs of the dead body, you can take the photographs of the injury, what were present on the body. You can take the photograph of every crime scene, whether it is large crime scene, outdoor crime scene, indoor crime scene, or the combination, whatever it is. You can take the photograph to the courtroom to showcase or to represent the crime scene, the actual condition of the crime scene, or the actual condition of the evidences on the crime scene to the courtroom, which is very much required, okay, to check the accuracy or otherwise of the statement and the forensic report made by you. Photographs are very much needed. Number 3 is, a very busy investigating officer may overlook certain evidences. For example, you are working in the forensic lab, so you are not only handling one case at a time. You may be handling 3 cases, 4 cases at a time. So you may overlook certain evidences. I'm not saying that the investigating officer is not trained or something. That is another scenario. But a busy investigating officer may overlook certain minute evidences. But once it has been photographed, and once he analyzes the photograph in his lab or in the police station, wherever, he can find out new evidences, he can encounter new evidences in the photograph. Let me give you an example here with this. So I'm taking a photograph of the complete crime scene, and I could not spot some of the blood spots there. But when I am analyzing my photograph, so what I see, certain blood spots on the bed sheet in the photograph, which I overlooked at the crime scene. So I can revisit the crime scene, I can go there again, and I can find out that these are the blood spots or any other stains. So you can find out the missing links as well with the careful examination of the photographs. They are unbiased. Now when in older days we were using the negative film camera roll. So what I was doing, even as a forensic expert, I need to submit the negative roll as well to the courtroom, that what I have photographed. So anytime when the court wants, they can redevelop the positives from those negatives, and they can check whether I have done the correct photography or not. So this is one scenario. But nowadays we use digital cameras. So yes, the accuracy of digital cameras are also used, because you have to use a single chip, a new chip, what we call as SD card, the micro SD card or SD card. You have to use a new SD card in each and every case, and after making a copy of that, you need to submit the original in the courtroom as and when required. And the courtroom, with the help of the cyber expert, will check that any manipulation have been done or not. So but nowadays we are using digital photography only. So we have to be very careful while doing the digital photographs of the crime scene. But the concern here is unbiased conclusion. A person can tell lie, but the photographs will never, until and unless they are manipulated. And I told you the manipulation can be checked with the help of the cyber forensic expert, digital forensic expert, that whether any manipulation has been done or not. Okay, so photographs are going to give you the unbiased conclusion. and court needs evidence, and believe me, photograph is one of the evidence in itself. Let's take a photograph of a firearm. So the photograph of that firearm will show you the type of firearm, whether the position of the firearm on the crime scene, even the interrelationship, how far it was from the dead body, how far it was from the another wall, everything will be depicted in that photograph. So photographs are unbiased. Number 5 is recording the invisible evidences or missed evidences. So with the help of the UV or IR photography, infrared photography, you can even identify, you can even locate the invisible fingerprints, invisible blood stains, seminal stains, and all those things. So next is, it tells us about the position and location of the crime scene as well as the evidences, as I have told you before. In reference photography, what is reference photography? I would like to mention it again here. With the help of a reference scale or a measuring device or a measuring tape. So this is called as reference photography. In reference photography, we also have the details of the evidence. Let's say I'm photographing a footprint. So beside that footprint, I will also put a chit or a slip writing the case number, the evidence number, and along with a reference scale. So that's the reference photography. I hope you understand very well. So reference photography is also required in almost all the cases for all evidence, but a pre-reference photograph should be taken first without misplacing the evidence or without doing any referencing, indexing, etc. Because while referencing, we may misplace the evidence. So a reference photography useful for the dimensions of the evidences. Another example, if you are photographing a fingerprint, okay, you cannot tell the size of the fingerprint in the courtroom, that what was the size of the fingerprint or the size of the signature. But when we do the reference photography, we can easily tell the size of the fingerprint, no matter how much you enlarge that image, what method you use to enlarge, which equipment you use to enlarge. The scale, the reference scale is also going to be enlarged, and it will be clearly mentioned that how much is the dimension of that particular evidence, whether it is a firearm, footprint, whether it is dead body, whatsoever the evidence is. Reference photography is very much required. Okay. The another thing is serve as a mean of comparison for two evidences. As I told you, photograph in itself is a type of evidence. Let's say you have two photographs of fingerprints, one from the crime sample and other from the specimen. If I ask you, can you compare these photographs? Yes, you can. It means you are comparing the two fingerprints, and same as in the case of the signature or handwriting. So certain evidences can be compared with the help of the photographs, enlarged photograph itself. So photographs serve as a mean of evidence. Now it helps in the clearing up of certain facts and to check the statement of the people. I told you, somebody is telling lie, somebody is telling truth, that can be checked with the CCTV footage or the cameras. So a general example here, let's say you have been invited in a marriage ceremony. Okay, let's take it other way. You have invited somebody to your marriage ceremony. I'm taking very light example here. So the person didn't turn up in the marriage ceremony, and later on he says that he was present at the marriage ceremony. How you will confirm his presence? You will show him all the photographs of the album and you will say you were not there. This is one of the best method. The other thing, the person says he was not there, but he is in the photograph of the marriage ceremony. So his presence is encountered and established with the help of the photograph. So this is another fact where the statement of the witnesses or the victim can be checked, even of the suspects. Now videography is useful, as I told you, but it's not always required, but it is good if you have videography along with the photography, because all courts do not allow you or do not have the facility to play a video in the session. So what you can do, you can only present the photographs, but videography is still useful in case of burglary, dacoity, even in the case of theft. Okay, but in case of sexual assaults, it is not allowed, it is not permitted due to the infringement of the privacy rule. So you have to take care of these things also as a forensic expert, whether it is allowed or not. Now coming to the principles of crime scene photography. So I told you there is no certain principle. Do not go by any principle that you have to take minimum of 3 photographs only and you have to complete photography in 1 hour. No, there is no such principle. So there is no prescribed length of time it takes to photograph document or to document a crime scene. Okay, it may take a day, it may take few hours, it may take few days to photograph a crime scene, depending upon the size of the crime scene and the complication of the crime scene, whether it is forest area, whether it is desert area, whether it is very much complicated, a lift shaft is there or a small room is there, a store room is there. It depends which area you are photographing. So you have to take care of that scenario as well. And also you have to take care of the dangers there, the weather condition. Let's say it's raining right now and you are investigating a road accident. Can you do the photography right now? No, you have to wait. So it will take much longer time. But it is always good to take a photograph of the rain, and it is always good to note down the temperature and the weather conditions, because it has to be proven in the courtroom why you delayed photography. Okay, why you delayed to take the photographs of that crime scene on that particular day. So you can easily establish with the help of the it is known as forensic meteorology. Okay, I told you in the branch of forensic science. So it is also required to note the weather condition or any other danger which is there to the investigating team. Now as I told you, it may take thousands of photographs, so don't be scared by that. It's your work as a forensic photography, because the success or failure of the case also depends upon the photographs taken, because courts go by evidences. Now capturing the scene. Photography in a general term can be defined as writing or drawing with light. Okay, writing or drawing with light. So light is entering into the camera, and once it is written inside the camera, it is permanently written. You can delete it, you can manipulate it, but it is written. Okay, or it is drawn, or it is defined as the process of producing images of the object on a sensitized surface by chemical actions. When we use the film roll camera, so there are alkalides. Okay, alkyl halides are there, which like silver bromides, silver halides, other things which react with the light and produces the image. But nowadays the photo sensors are there, the CCD CMO sensors are there, which we will discuss again later when I will teach you complete photographic rules in detail. So there are two types of photo sensors are there nowadays. In digital camera we use photo sensors. Okay, so a well taken crime scene photograph can aid scientists, investigation and member of court in their search for the truth. And believe me, a court can conclude the case sometime on the basis of the photographs as well. Only if they check that the photograph is not manipulated, they check the accuracy of the photograph, they can conclude with the help of the photograph. You may encounter several cases around the world like that, the photograph has served as the only mean of identification or as only mean of the evidence which was there. Okay, now what is the most important thing in photograph is how to control the light. So controlling light is happen in 3 ways. Again I am saying you, I will take another class of detailed photography, that how to be a forensic photographer. Okay, which is very much difficult right now in their present slide, because we are discussing about recording of the crime scene with the help of photograph. So we are going to brief the outline only here, which is very much necessary for your examination if you are appearing for one. Okay, so how you control the light? There are 3 major parameters. One is the aperture. Aperture is the opening of the camera lens, that how much it will be open, how much amount of light should enter into the camera. So again it depends whether you are shooting in natural light, whether you are shooting with artificial light, means the flash guns, or whether the light is appropriate on the crime scene, whether the light is dim, whether you are shooting in dark. So how much should be the aperture size? It depends on the type of the crime scene and the condition of the light on the crime scene. The other thing is shutter speed. Now aperture regulates the amount of light. Shutter speed regulates the time of light. For how much time, for how much fraction of seconds the light should enter, or the light will enter into the camera. Then the depth of the field, which is actually the sharpness and white balance. Okay, all these things should be taken care while photographing the crime scene. Now, why the crime scene is photographed? So I have told you so many reasons that photography should be used as a part of documentation. First of all, the documentation is based upon the photographic log itself. Then it records the evidences, whatever the case is, whether it is burglary case, traffic collision case, or it may be a homicide, suicide, or whatever the case is, photographs are very much necessary. Okay. However, photographs can be misleading or confusing to the viewer. How? If you do not know how to take the photograph properly, if you do not know what should be the proper distance of photographing a crime scene or an evidence, so it can be misleading also. So therefore, the crime scene photographer must ensure their work is both ethical and honest while capturing as much accurate information and detail as possible. Okay. The second paragraph says, very important thing here, even in the most ideal situation, let's say everything is as per your comfort and you are ready to go, even in those situations, the most ideal situation, capturing photographic evidence can be very challenging, because I told you the weather condition is one of the other factor. Condition of light, let's say the crime scene is very large, you can easily move around the crime scene, on the crime scene, but the condition of light is not good, so it can be very challenging as well. Secondly, some of the evidences are hidden somewhere, or some of the evidences are not under the approach of the photographer, so it can be very challenging, and even the experienced photographer will find it further challenging, and he has to be extra cautious while doing the photography of the crime scene. The next thing is, what are the steps taken during the crime scene photography? So here I would like to mention some of these steps which you need to take care of. So first is securing the crime scene. I have discussed a lot in the production of the crime scene session last time that you have to use several types of barrier tapes to protect the crime scene, and again it depends upon the size of the crime scene, the nature of the crime which you are dealing, and even on the location of the crime, whether it is a road accident, whether it is a remote area. So you have to secure the crime scene. The second is evaluate the condition. Now what conditions we are talking about? The conditions we are talking about, that whether it is the available light is sufficient or not, whether it is a dim light, whether it is dark room, whether it is natural light available, sunlight available, what are the weather condition, whether you are shooting an indoor crime scene and outdoor crime scene, or both, whether you are shooting inside the vehicle, or whether you have to take care of multiple rooms. All these conditions should be considered, evaluated first, and then the photography of that crime scene should be planned. Okay, then you have to shoot the scene actually. So the photographer should take photograph before anything is disturbed. It is the first work. Okay, the very first is to provide the medical assistance to the victim or whosoever is injured or surviving for the life. If that is not the case, if the victim is already dead, or if there is a theft case, burglary case, so you can start doing photography as soon as you approaches the crime scene, as soon as you put your first step on the crime scene. At each and every step you are going to take a photograph while you are doing your initial walkthrough. Okay, in last session we understood about the initial walkthrough during the crime scene processing. So when we are doing our initial walkthrough, we should photograph. No matter which camera is available with you, it should take a better photograph. It should be able to take a good photograph. The pixels should not be blurred when it is being enlarged. Otherwise, we are using as a rule, as a general rule, 35 mm SLR camera, or you can say 35 mm DSLR camera. Right now we need to use that, the requirement, but now even the mobile cameras are coming with the 40 megapixels and with all the accessories, telephoto lens, UV light, IR light. Now the technology has grown so far, so you can use even these cameras, but you have to mention in your report that which type of camera or which mobile or whatever system you have used to photograph, which equipment you have used to photograph the crime scene. Okay, so you have to start the crime scene shooting. Then I told you minimum 3 pictures. There will be one overview picture, then one medium range picture, other will be one close-up range picture, and you can go for as many as shots you want until you find that you have clearly focused each and everything from all the possible angles. Okay, next is you have to photograph the victim. The next series of shots should include the victim, if victim is there. Okay, to show the location of the victim, all the injuries, whatever markings they are having, and the condition. You should not try to unclothe the victim on the crime scene. This is the work of the medical examiner or the coroner. It is not your work. And once he will unclothe during the autopsy, he will again do the photography. In what condition the body was there, what were the injuries, external injuries, and while autopsy, what were the internal injuries. All the photographs will be taken. Okay, then you have to photograph the evidence. What you need to take care, you have always to photograph as far as possible from the eye level, means the 90-degree angle, but I told you it is not always possible. Okay, something is lying beneath the bed, beneath the table, it is not possible. So try to choose an angle which will create less distortion. As you can see, this is a distorted image. The size of the scissor looks somewhat bigger. Actually it is not like that. So this type of distortion should be avoided during the crime scene photography. If it is a footprint, let's say, and you have taken a wrong angle photograph, so it may show the footprint as bigger. During the reference photography, it will show you the actual size, but if without referencing, the distortion creates so much confusion in the mind of the jury, even in the mind of the investigator. So try to be at the right angle as far as possible, or to eliminate the distant distortions in the crimes from the evidences. Then after your first series without the evidence marker, without any referencing, you should now put the evidence marker and referencing, and then again you should start your shooting with the evidence marker. Then you have to reshoot all the evidences once again if it is not clear, or if you think that something has been left, okay, or you think that you have shooted till this point and you don't remember, so you have to reshoot the thing again. Or if you encounter a very new evidence in the chain, then you have to reshoot the crime scene, because the same chip is going to be submitted in the courtroom, and your series of photograph will be considered as series of evidences encountered one after the other. So be cautious in that as well. Okay, now there are different alternative light sources. I told you UV light sources there, IR light sources there, oblique light. You know what is oblique light? Oblique light at an angle other than 90 degree. When I am impounding a light with the torch light at an angle of 90 degree, it is not oblique light, it is straight light. And when I am using any other angle, up and down, so it is alternative light source. An example I would like to give you here is, let's say there is a fingerprint on a glass screen, which you may overlook while you are looking straight into the glass screen, but when you tilt your head, means the oblique light is falling into the glass screen, then you can see that fingerprint clearly and you can photograph it with the help of the camera. So try to use oblique light either through the evidence if it is transparent, or onto the evidence if it is opaque. Okay, so try that method to eliminate the evidence with the alternative light source. So oblique light angle I told you already, like footprints and footwear marks, because you need to show the 3 dimensions of the certain evidences. So in that case you need to have the shadowing effect, and to have the shadowing effect you need to have the oblique light. Okay, and then you can use macro lenses for macro photography as well, in the ratio of 1:1 or 1:2, for fingerprints, for firearms, for firearm cartridges, markings, tool marks, all that can be used with the help of the macro lenses. And you have to shoot very fast. Very fast means there is a law of progressive change. In the first lecture series in Introduction to Forensic Science, I told you law of progressive change. Everything in this world is dynamic and will change with the lapse of time. So I'm not saying here very fast that you need not to take care of the evidences, but you need to be slightly faster in taking the photograph, because you do not know what will be the environment factors after few hours, or what will be the condition after so and so time. So you need to take care of this thing and try to shoot fast. Okay, and to shoot fast you need to be prepared well. You need to have all your accessories ready prior to the photography. Let's say if you are using a good mobile camera, and if the battery of the mobile camera is down, then you will not be able to achieve your goal. So you need to take care of these things also, okay, which we will talk in the checklist of the photography. Who conduct the photographic analysis and enhancement? Of course, the forensic photographer. And what they use? They can use certain softwares also, but everything has to be mentioned, and there is a limit to modify the files, that what you can modify, whether you can modify the contrast, whether you can modify the brightness, and if you have modified, why you have modified, it should be noted down very clearly. Please be sure in that. Okay, do not take any chance. Let's say you make a blood pool very bright. Okay, so it may not look like a blood at all in the courtroom, so you have to take care of that. If you are changing any of the parameters, you should write it down and mention it either behind the photograph or with below comments that you have changed this requirement for this purpose to make it more clear. Okay, you can do it. Definitely enhancing can be done. There is no problem in enhancing. And this photographing processing is mainly for the brightness, cropping, contrast adjustment. Okay, and adding or removing of any information is unacceptable. If you do that, you will be booked. Booked means you will be charged with the manipulation of the evidences. Okay, so be clear. If you are doing so, make it sure that you have noted it down and why it was needed. Okay, otherwise do not do it. Please keep. Then type of the equipment used. So a good quality camera, interchangeable lenses. Okay, I told you 35mm DSLR camera is a very good option prescribed by the forensic experts around the world. Interchangeable lenses, you can have zoom lens, macro lens, micro lens, and then you have the camera flashes if needed. The cable release and the tripod is must. Okay, not for all the evidences, but for most of the evidences which are needed to be taken at the eye angle or which may have chances of distortion, like fingerprints, you must use a tripod. Okay, but if it is very complicated crime scene where you cannot put the tripod, so try to use a handle, what we call the stick tripod. Okay, so you need to keep your camera steady to avoid any moving of the camera for the distortions. Okay, so yeah, cell phones and other personal electronic devices with integrated cameras are not recommended unless their use is an operational necessity. I told you, if no other camera is available, if it is the only option with you, then you can go ahead with that type of camera, the mobile camera and others. Now these are the rules of crime scene photography. First, you have not to disturb the crime scene. Okay, second, you have to get a complete series of pictures. Third, you have to pay attention to the camera angles. And fourth, you have to record all the data. Complete series of pictures here means overview, medium, close-up. Okay, attention to the camera angles means whether you are going to take picture from the side light, front light, back light, all those things. You need to take care of the sharpness very well. Okay, then movement, if your camera is moving or if the object is moving, so you have to adjust your shutter speed accordingly. If there is any dirt or dust on the camera lens, you should remove it, because there may be condition you are shooting in Canada or maybe in cold climate where fog is there, so you need to clear your lens each and every time in the outdoor scene, so that has to be taken care. Then direction of light, I told you 3 types of direction: back lighting, side lighting, and the front lighting. Mostly front lighting is used, back lighting is rarely used, but sometime it is used. We will discuss in next video where and how it is being used. Okay, and take care of the exposure. So this was all about the crime scene photography, and next we'll come up with the crime scene sketching, that how to do sketching and what are the parameters of sketching a crime scene. Till then, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience.